Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Happy Hour Podcast pre-game episode. Of course, my name's Ray. I'm coming by myself this week. Matt, unfortunately, had a couple of things to do. Mike, God knows where he is. Momentarily, I'm going to be joined by Tommy Simbazo. You guys know him. He was a part of our 1-year anniversary show. He's been a guest on the show, and he's done various things with us. We have a lot coming up in August. Bear with us for August. August, we are going to have Sherry Nelson, who is a model and actress. She's going to be on. That will be next week. We're going to have John Butcher, who's a musician. He will be joining us as well. And then we will be finishing off this month with a dual episode with episode A and episode B, which will be Bubba Almany. We will be live August 28th. So keep in mind, August 28th, we will be 100% live at Bubba's celebrity basketball game in Snow Hill, Maryland for the Fan Fest. And for that, we will have a regular episode out of that, a special bonus episode. And then the next day, we go live with musician Rocky Kramer. So a lot of that's coming up. We appreciate everybody who tunes in weekly, everybody who views on Facebook, everybody who listens in, and of course, everybody who tunes in on YouTube. A couple of things that are farther out down the line. 98 Rock's Justin Schlegel, comedian Justin Schlegel, he will be joining us on the program. Adult film star Melina Kane, she will be joining us, and also adult film star Elena Evans, she will also be joining us on the program in September coming up down the line. Now, it's kind of insane how things have inflated due to COVID. Like, I am completely blown away how things have inflated. Me and my wife just got back from the grocery store, and man, like the normal amount of shopping we did was almost double the price due to the fact of how bad inflation is right now. It is absolutely fucking insane. And, not to mention, we're leaving out of the store and some cunt ass bitch blocks the handicap ramp. So we had to go all the way around the side of the store to fucking get around because then, ideally probably should have just rammed our cart right into the side of our fucking SUV. But, that's the kind of shit that you deal with, that just a sense of entitlement that's out there, but also, that sense of entitlement of, I'm just going to block a handicap ramp. Meanwhile, we watch a 95-year-old man walk out of the store and have to go down the curb because this bitch is blocking, the handicap ramp. Just be better, people. Just be better. Of course, we're going to be going live momentarily on Facebook Live. Our guest is Howard Bloom. Howard Bloom, a lot of older people may know him. 1980s, one of the best rock publicists, one of the best musical publicists. You can know he did publicist work for Michael Jackson, Prince, Joan Jett, you name them, he's covered them and he's helped propel them into the stratosphere. He's also got a bunch of books, books that we're going to talk about his theory on the universe and, God and, all that fun stuff that's going to be coming up with Howard Bloom. He seems like he's going to be a pretty interesting cat to talk to. So I'm excited myself. Of course, I feel a little bit naked. Sorry if it seems a little bit awkward, but this isn't a one-man pony. I could have this be a one-man pony show, but I don't like that. I like hanging out with my friends and drinking. Speaking of which, as I stated before, we are going back and covering some of our former shots of the month, which are now the featured shots, because I have so much of these fucking things. Look at how much is left in that. That's what's left over from featuring on the show. So, a lot of people send us a lot of product, and, I'm not sure if we're going to do it with the beards of the week also, because I have so many of those left on, but, we're just trying to fit a good rotation where it helps us out, where we're not only spending a bunch of money every week on alcohol, but also where we can actually get this alcohol in. If someone sends us product, we can feature it for multiple episodes and say, hey, here's a shout out to this. So, Deep Eddies, that's done. We're going to be going back. Unfortunately, Polo Club, I figured let's get the worst out of the way first with the Polo Club. So in probably about 5 minutes time, Howard Bloom will be coming in along with Tommy Simbazo. So, for everybody, I know we have very little subscribers on our Patreon, but, I appreciate everybody 155% with everything everybody does. Of course, our t-shirts are out there. Go out, buy some t-shirts, please. Anything helps out, any kind of support, or even if you just want to subscribe to the Patreon, just to support the product, that's 100% fine. We take our time, effort, and money. Matt, Mike, they have a lot of stuff going on. I put 100% of my time into this show. So, have some sort of return and, for something that we have fun doing, that would be great. But yeah, we're going to keep on doing this week in and week out. And of course, I don't want to end up, sounding like I'm babbling or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wait for Tommy Simbazo and Howard Bloom to come through. And I will be back with you guys in 1 minute right here on our exclusive Patreon pre-show.
Aha, is that Chase?
Hey, Howard, how are you?
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, man? Hey, so normally I try to connect about 15 minutes early with everybody just in case we have any kind of technical difficulties. Also, my co-host Tommy Simbazo, who's a local comedian, he should be coming through relatively soon too. Pretty much the show, we're pretty laid back. I take very few notes. We like to try to be as real as possible and just, have a good time. We try to stray away from politics and stuff like that. There's too much of that out there nowadays. So also what we do is before we'll get about 30 minutes through and we'll take a break. That's only for us to cut for the audio. And then we just rolling along with the episode. Once we come back, we play a couple of games with our guests. One of them's 5-second rule. The other is incoherent. And the other is Cards Against Humanity. So just feel free. I mean, be yourself, man. We're fun. Tommy, he's a local comedian. So, he'll probably be yucking it up a little bit, once we actually go live. I don't know how much Elaine filled you in with the show, but we just like to have fun. We have guests from all walks of life, on the show, and we're just a bunch of guys just drinking some alcohol and just having fun. So,
Well, what caught my attention in the show description,
I
think it's on Apple or something like that.
Yeah.
Pornography. And I can give you an explanation of why pornography is of value to human society.
Why is that?
Well, we'll save it for later.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And honestly, I looked up the stuff with your books and that trailer she sent me. My mind was just blown when and I'm like, that's awesome. Like, and honestly, I feel like you're one of those types of guys. Like, I feel that my regular co-host Matt, there's been times where he's gotten drunk, and my wife is his wife's best friend. So she lived with them way back when. And there'd be nights where they would get drunk and they would just spend hours talking about the universe and just all this, all that kind of thing. And he would just love talking to you. I know next week he's at a wedding. I know next week he's going to watch this on Facebook and he's going to be like, oh man, I so wish, I probably
he blew it. So what's the name of your partner for tonight?
My partner tonight is Tommy. So you'll be talking to Tommy. I go by either Chase or you can call me Ray. Chase Rawlings normally. I'm used to that because that was my wrestling name when I was wrestling.
Your wrestling name, Chase. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I did pro wrestling for over 20 years. So it made me familiar with, cameras and, being able, I did it. I got beaten up, and now it's the kind of thing of, being 36 years old and starting when I was 13 and having bad ankles, bad knees, a bad back. I retired, not too long ago, but I'm just kind of like, I need to find something to just keep myself going and, kind of get that live performing high. And I'm like, that's why we do the Facebook Live, because I'm just kind of like, hey, I'm so used to being in an environment where you need to call things on the fly. You don't have a script. You don't have this. You don't have that. You need to improvise the best way you can, because once you expose it, people are going to know that it's a joke. So, and that's kind of how I run, the podcast. I'm just kind of like, hey, I don't run it like a podcast. I've never done a podcast in my life. I run it more like a wrestling show or a TV show. Because that's what I know. And everybody always has a great time. So luckily we haven't offended anybody yet. Everybody's had a good time. So,
What a standard to measure by. We haven't offended anybody yet.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like we have like kind of like the Howard Stern type edge, but also we do research our guests really well, and we're like, can we go balls to the wall with this person, or can we, kind of be a little bit of us, but also, kind of tone it down a little bit more. Like we've had people who were Power Rangers who were on the Power Rangers show, so we still had fun, but we toned it down a little bit because we're like, okay, with Power Rangers, you might get some of the kids that might end up seeing this somewhere. God forbid we say we're a mature audiences only show, but how that works with parents. You're at an R-rated movie and they have their kid in the movie. You're like, okay, like, yeah, this is how.
Well, unfortunately, I'm an R-rated person, so
awesome. Then you'll fit in quite well with the show. So, so is there any questions you have for the show, or is there anything that you don't want to talk about? I'm not saying we'll bring anything up you won't, because as I said, I
will talk about absolutely anything on and off planet Earth.
Awesome. That's great. So we're gonna have an off-Earth experience tonight. That's good. I like that. That's great.
And what is that object hanging behind you with all of the wires?
Oh, well, actually, a lot of people ask me about that. I have like I have a floating shelf behind me.
Right.
What I have is I'm in Baltimore, so I have a Baltimore Orioles kind of like light up bar sign. So it goes down to the outlet, and then right here, that's an actual light up Orioles player. So people ask me about that all the time, and then I have a base from Camden Yards that I got it from the stadium itself. I was able to steal second. I won a contest, and it has like the dirt and all that all over it. So just all kinds of little fun. My wrestling, my EWA 2019 Hall of Fame award when I went into the Hall of Fame for the wrestling company.
Fantastic! That's amazing.
Yeah, so I eventually want to try to get a lot of big name guys like Steve Austin, The Rock, anybody that's been in WWE. They all have like replicas of the belts that they won.
Right.
So when I get the money, I want to try to get replicas done of each belt that I won to put in my basement and I'm thinking about maybe backdropping them behind this, and then I'll put the camera back a little bit farther so people can see that, and it'll be the belts. And it'll be me, it'll be a photo of me winning, the match that I won the belt in, and it'll have the belt, and it'll say, EWA heavyweight champion from this date to this date, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So it just fun stuff. I always, you should always be proud of the work that you've done, whatever art it is. I tell people all the time, I did pro wrestling for 20 years and I made pretty much nothing money wise. I love doing it, but you should always chase your dreams and, put whatever out. I put so much time into this. It's insane. And, will it ever become anything? Who knows? But if not, we got to meet a lot of cool people and we got to have a lot of fun. And I can sit there and say, hey, at least I was more of a little teeny tiny dot than I was. My dot's a little bit bigger because all over the world have seen, either my wrestling or have heard my podcast or seen my podcast, so, it's just stuff of, just having fun and, being us. And I think that's why a lot of people are attracted to the show. Thankfully, we're booked all the way into January. So, it's hard for us to do, an every night thing and, multiple guests because we all have time. And so I have to try to keep it weekly. And unfortunately, we lose a lot of good guests that way. But, in order for us to keep the engine running, that's the only way we can do it because I do everything. Like, my co-hosts, they come over, drink beer, have fun, and we just bullshit the whole time. But the whole thing is when it comes down to editing and promoting and having the graphic work done, having the t-shirts done, everything's me. So I'm just kind of like, okay, if we had a company that did that, we would probably do multiple episodes in 1 week or something along those lines. But it's not bad. So
well, once a week is a challenge the way it is.
Yeah and thankfully, and I hate saying anything. Really, COVID helped us out a lot because, we started June of last year, which was right in the middle of the pandemic. So people weren't really doing much. So, it helped out, reaching out and saying, hey, would you like to be on a podcast? And then thankfully, we got connected with good people. I have a PR for some of the adult film stars that I go through. She provides us people all the time. Of course, Aline, she's getting us a bunch of people on the show. So, I always try to make room and, for everybody who, can to get people into the show. And I said, I'll talk to anybody. I'm good with talking to whoever. So, I've never had an issue with talking in front of people or talking to people. I've always been blessed with being able to do that. But wrestling helped me, do a lot of that as well. So.
Right. Well, sounds. How the hell do you get into wrestling?
Well, I mean, it's the thing. And of course, growing up, growing up, I was a huge wrestling fan, grew up with Hulk Hogan, The Undertaker, all those guys. And I loved it. I had over 500 wrestling figures. My walls were literally papered like wallpaper of just wrestling pictures. And that's what it was.
Amazing.
And my dad knew it was something a little bit more than what it was. And, I got to be, I was 13, I was going on 14. And normally in wrestling, you can sign up at 13. So I was getting ready to turn 14. And he's like, look, I'm going to just roll it out for you. I can, get you a car or you can go to wrestling school. And I thought, well, I'm only 14. I can get a car later on in life. I was like, I want to go to wrestling school. So that's where it all started. And of course, in Maryland, you can't get licensed until you're 18. So, by the time I actually physically got onto a show and did something live and performed live, it's just one of those things that, hey, this was fun, blah, 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 and it takes off from there. You get addicted to going out and performing in front of the crowd and, all that fun stuff. So anyways, I'm going to ask you, I always ask every guest, sometimes we might run over a little bit. Is that cool if we run it a little bit?
Okay. I mean, I got a very crowded night tonight, strange as it sounds, but I'll make whatever time you need.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So I'll try not to make it too long. I'll try to have it wrapped up by 7. Let me go ahead and admit Tommy, and I'll go ahead and get live on Facebook, post it around the Twitter and all that stuff in case anybody wants to jump in, and then we'll start the show. So everybody will. All right. We are no longer live, Howard. Right. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was great, man. Howard. Oh,
yeah.
I'm gonna read some of your stuff. I really, yeah.
And real quick, would you be able to say this is Howard Bloom and you're listening to the Happy Hour podcast? We drop those in on every episode.
Yes, absolutely. So
awesome. Whenever you're ready,
we'll do it 3 times. So this is Howard Bloom. I want you to listen to the Happy Hour podcast.
Awesome.
Want to try another couple just in case?
Yeah.
Okay. This is Howard Bloom. Listen to the Happy Hour podcast. That's my 1940s radio voice. Howard Bloom says, listen to the Happy Hour podcast. That should give you some choices.
Oh, that's great.
Honestly, man, I appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy. When I started looking a lot of your stuff up, I was very excited because I was like, this is just going to be fun. As I said, I don't really take down a lot of notes. Tommy knows the way we roll. We just kind of, get on, have fun, laugh, and just have a good time. So Howard, I appreciate it. I hope you want to come back on in the future.
Oh, I'd love to come back on.
Oh, it's great. Cause doing comedy, I'm sorry, my internet dropped out for some reason.
Yeah.
I missed it.
Funny because I was gonna say, when you were talking about it, you were talking about having like an out of body experience with the crowd, and I'm like, Tommy's having an out of body experience right now.
I'm done. I left. No, but if you're working like a big room of like 300 some people, and you're just crushing, and the only way I could describe to people is that I'm not in myself. I'm sitting up behind myself, and while my mouth is going through the motions of telling jokes, there's the other part of me that's like, okay, you made a reference to this and this guy made a face. There might be something in there. If you do crowd work with him, you can dig it out of him. And it's sort of like I'm in the back seat telling the driver which way to go.
Right. It's the tale of the multiple selves, which is a whole other story for a whole other time.
And what's funny is the same thing, Tommy, and I'll say this real quick, and then we'll let you go, Howard, is that, in a wrestling match, it's the same thing. You have a guy in a headlock, you're sitting there, you have him in a headlock, you're kind of feeding him a little bit of directions, but you're also looking around at the crowd. And you're looking at the crowd, you're looking for that guy, especially if you're a bad guy, who's the most into it, who's sitting there yelling the most for that guy. And then you sit there, you're like, that's the guy I'm going to target. And that's the point that, throughout the whole entire match, you screw with that guy. Because if you can get him to hate you, then the rest of the crowd's going to follow. It's like, you sit there and, the guy says something, and it's like, hey, why don't you tell your mother, whatever, or something like that. Right. And that guy's going to get bent out of shape. And that's just the magic of doing it. So, I like that, you've been around that and you were able to convey that not only in the music, but in the comedy, but also in the wrestling. It shows everybody, you've been around for a long time. And I meant to ask you when you're on air, like, did you have like some sort of magical pen when you did your publicist stuff? Because so many people ended up with gold records after you represented them. And it's like, what kind of magic, like, were you it was some sort of magic. They got hooked up with you and then boom, gold record. Like, that's
Right.
so.
Well, that's a long story, and it comes to how you. It again comes down to the gods inside of you, and some of those gods have truths.
Yeah.
Those truths are accurate. Look, one day, I'm in San Diego, and I've been working for 3 years with the 11th president of India, who's a superstar in South Asia. He's regarded as the only politician in the history of South Asia, the only honest politician in the history of South Asia.
We don't have a lot of those.
He's called the people's president. And he and I have been working together for 4 years. I put him together with Buzz Aldrin, among other things. And then I had a falling out with my intermediary, who could chew you apart like a cat, just slash you to ribbons. And I was tired of being slashed. So I thought that the president of India wasn't going to want to have anything to do with me because I wasn't getting along with his intermediary. And then I get a summons. And the summons says, Dr. Kalam wants to see you. So I go up to Dr. Kalam's suite. There's a long line of people going through security, waiting to get in. Each one is getting 15 minutes. And I arrive at the suite, and Dr. Kalam is talking to some very important people. And I don't want to interrupt because I'm a nobody. So I try to find a seat on the wall where I won't be seen. And Dr. Kalam's eyes meet mine. And this is ridiculous. Tommy, I've never met this man before. We've been communicating by email, but he's not supposed to communicate with me. That's against protocol for him to directly communicate with somebody. He's supposed to go through level A and level B of diplomacy to talk to me. And he's discarded all of that. And his eyes light up as if he has known me since I was 6 years old. And he loses total interest in the people that he's with immediately. Yeah. And he walks out of this little group of important people and comes over, and there are certain rules of diplomacy with a former head of state, for Christ's sake. And he breaks every single one of them. He gives me a huge hug. And then he dismisses these really important people. Now, Dr. Kalam, when he read my book, The Genius of the Beast, said it was a visionary creation, and he just used the word visionary 12 times in a long email quote, extolling the virtues of this book. He was absolutely blown away by the book. So Dr. Kalam gives me the introduction he's just written to a book. And he stands 12 inches away from me, and he's looking into my eyes, and he wants to see my face as I read it. Why? He wants to see if I light up to his words the way he lit up to mine. Why? Because in his eyes, there is a very special meaning to a visionary. A visionary is a person who has visions that pierce the veil of the normal. And he knows he does that. And he wants to see if I do that, if I light up to his words, if I see the visionary in him the way he saw the visionary in me. And he gives me this sudden sense of what a visionary is. And of course, my face does light up because it's amazing. The work is brilliant. I begin to see what he's talking about when he uses the word visionary. Well, it all comes down to having these visions of absolute truths. You can't control them. You can't summon them. They either hit you or they don't. And once you have one, following it through to the nth degree, step by step by step by step, knowing that truth with absolute precision. How you know it is utterly beyond me. And it's a mystery that my science and even my musings, even my poetry can't pierce.
Yeah.
As yet. But someday I got to solve that problem.
And Howard, I know you're a busy guy. We're going to go ahead and let you go. As I said, dude, 100%. If you're ever in Maryland, hit me up. I'll hit Tommy up. We got to go have a drink.
You'll get some crabs.
Some, like outside world shit. Because honestly, man, I'm so interested. As I said before, when we started, we're booked into January. I would love to have you back as soon as possible. So maybe February, March, something like that. We can have you back on and just let loose. We're talking about out of this world type stuff. So
that sounds neat to me. Set her up with Eileen. I will be there.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. Enjoy. And hopefully you had a good time, and we'll see you next time, man.
Pleasure meeting you, Howard.
All right.
Have a great night. I'll see you again soon.
All right. See you. All right. Bye. Tommy, you gonna hang out for a minute?
Now I gotta eat and do stuff.
Dude, there for a second, and I'm gonna let you go in a minute because I have to
Yeah, you're fine.
but there for a minute, I was just kind of like, what the fuck's happening?
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to interrupt him with any jokes because
Yeah. Like
I'm gonna miss what he's saying.
yeah. Like literally, like I told him before we went on because he was cool. Like before we went on,
Yeah,
I was like, I feel like we're just gonna have an out of body experience, and how cool he was. I was
Yeah.
like, we're not gonna have to do any work at all. Like
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. But he's just such an interesting guy.
Yeah,
And I was like, this could easily spiral out. And he said that like Elaine had him like, scheduled to do like 3 other things tonight.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, fuck, like, this could easily spiral out to be like a 3 fucking hour episode. Because this dude's just gonna keep a rolling. And I'm just kind of like at some point I was just kind of like, are we on Tommy's magic mushroom?
yeah. I want to see. I
Yeah.
want to read some of his stuff now.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
dude.
Wow, he was cool.
As I said, like I feel kind of bad because you dedicated your Sunday night and like you
I
don't really
know.
get to say much. But
I don't care. That was I had a great time listening to him. I
Yeah,
go
well,
watch a seminar that he was talking about. If he was a cult leader, I would be in that cult. That'd be my second cult.
yes, 100%. If he ever has a cult, we are in.
Yep,
Like,
I'm in. I'm here first day. Dude, first day.
like
I want a single digit number.
I'm gonna text everybody when we're done. Like, I don't know what the fuck just happened, but you gotta watch. Like, I don't know what this is, but you gotta watch. So,
All right, bud. I'm gonna hop off.
all right, brother. Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks, Henry,
it.
man.
Yeah, man.
Give your wife a squeeze for me.
I will. All right.
See you.